My brain's splitting off in so many different directions. My brain's splitting off in so many different. My brain's splitting off in so many different directions that no one has the answers to. My dad was a shrink. Certain things upset me. And my dad was a shrink. Certain things upset me. And my dad was a shrink. Certain things upset me. What's the furthest star, and then what's beyond the furthest star? What's the furthest star, and then what's beyond the furthest star? What's the furthest star, and then what's beyond the furthest star? Questions that no one has the answers to.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Statics. I just made that up. That doesn't sound good at all. I don't like that.
There's Future Statics.
Future Statics.
Days of Static X.
Statics of Future Cast?
Nope.
Now we're just in like 90s.
Days of Forcer Cast.
Days of Statics Cast. There we go. That sounds pretty good.
There's something there.
It's a
cast
new
with an X.
It's a new era, Gary.
It is. We're starting a new run.
We are.
Goodbye, Deadly Genesis. Hello, X-Force X-Statix.
Yes.
The Peter Milligan, Mike Allred, contemporary to New X-Men, the Grant Morrison New X-Men that we did. That is like a pop art deconstruction of mutant and celebrity. That is, I really love. We haven't really talked about it that much. I wonder if this is going to be one of those things like where me and Cole do Abject Suffering and it's some nerd ass game for puzzles. And like, I'm like, this is dumb. He's like, no, it's actually, I thought it was pretty good. And then I have to spend the whole episode being like, oh shit. So I don't know if it's going to be one of those things where I think this is super good. And the whole time you're going to be like, I don't know, man. And then, we get to have an awkward 40 issues of this, 40 episodes of this. Time will tell.
I guess like you have told me in the past that this is one of your favorite series, if not like this is up there for you, right? So
yeah, not my favorite. Like New X-Men, Planetary, Invisibles. Like there are things that I like more than this, but this is up there for me.
Especially for being like kind of off the wall, right? Like this isn't like mainline X-Men stuff. Like this is that good side X stuff that I think that me and you both are really craving in our lives. So a year or two back, this came up on some feedback episode and you mentioned X-Statix, or it just came up in the conversation or whatever. And I'm like, well, I've got fucking Marvel Unlimited. Let me just go read this shit. So I started X-Statix #1 and according to Marvel Unlimited, I dropped off like 2 or 3 issues in. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what that was. Like, I think I know what it was now. Let me say that. At the time, like I was just like probably busy. And then you and I decided to do this and we attempted to get a recording together last week, right before a hurricane came through Louisiana. And again, I started with X-Statix #1 and read the first 4 issues and was extremely confused why you like this so much and just was like, okay, well, this is one of those comic book things where like 40 issues in, this is all going to click and I'll go back and reread it and it's going to be super good. And then we sit down to record and we realized that, oh, this doesn't start at X-Statix #1. It starts on X-Force 116 with all of the stuff that you need for X-Statix #1.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
To clarify, Jeremy, that's not your fault. It was dumb of Marvel just to make X-Force a totally different thing out of nowhere.
Sure, absolutely.
And then transfer it over. Like, X-Force like now kind of changes teams, but it's always kind of has the same theme. Like it's this Black Ops kind of thing. This is a 180 from what X-Force was doing. I read the X-Force issue that happened before this, and it's very serious, and it's all about honor and Domino.
Oh, Jesus. I can't even tell in that sentence if Honor is a mutant or not.
It's a good name for a mutant. It has like the X symbol on the front. It's all bloody, like the Watchmen button.
Absolutely,
yeah. It's pretty intense. So this, I only heard about this because of word of mouth. And I think that this probably took a lot of people by surprise and pissed off a lot of people who just like X-Force. And then when X-Statix came out, a lot of people probably had your experience of jumping into a story 1/4 the way already told.
Yes.
And with no setup or no explanation of these characters and just having a real hard time jumping in.
I can imagine. Because even the second time, like I had it in my head and my mental notes, because I don't really take notes for this stuff because it's a fucking comic book, Gary. But
because we're fucking 40, leave us alone.
I had in my mental notes to be like, so when did the flashbacks start happening? Like, I'm not really into flashbacks, but like somebody's got to explain like who Edie is at some point, right? And sure enough, yeah, there's a good 40 solid issues. I do take some responsibility because I could have just Googled it and I didn't.
Well, and to be fair, like if this were Guppy, Will would go back to the episode where I said it started in 116 and do a Days of Future Cast classics and stuff. But I forgot to remind you.
Interesting.
And we had a lot of excuses because move and then hurricane.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not too stressed out
Louisiana
about it whatsoever.
has been nearly hurricane free for nearly 5 days. So, don't, cut us some slack, please.
It's been a week. Send tarps. If you got some spare tarps, send them through the DSA in Southwest Louisiana. They just Google them. They're doing great work. But send them tarps and axes is what they need. If you can afford a chainsaw, that would help us out as well.
Yeah. Google tarps as well. It's probably been a while since someone Googled tarped. Yeah. So let's do you want to get into it? Do you have any history with these creators?
No. I think I've read a lot of. I think I've read some of Milligan's stuff, but not like no history or anything. Just like picking up stuff and like just recognizing the name. So I don't really have. I'm coming to this completely fresh and blind as possible.
These are both creators that I really love.
I love
Peter
the
Milligan.
Art. Man, it's just so amazing.
Mike. This is my favorite comic book artist, Mike Allred. The husband-wife team of Mike and Laura Allred, who I met once at a comic book shop, and they were colossal fucking weirdos and made me feel really uncomfortable. They were dressed up like the Clockwork Orange perverts. And, yeah, I tried to just go up to him and be Gary Butterfield, smiling politely and just like, hey, I really like your work. And I've never seen somebody look more bored at a compliment in my entire life.
Wow.
Like, I don't know what he expected me to come up and say, but they're art weirdos. But this is my favorite comic book art, and Pete Milligan is not my favorite writer. This is my favorite work of his, but I knew him before from a Vertigo book called Shade the Changing Man that came out around the same time that Sandman did, and Animal Man, kind of in that Vertigo 80s and early 90s push. And that's a really cool comic about a spy. And he also did a really underwhelming X-Men run. Where there's Dupe's sister is in space. There's they introduced DAP.
Oh, good.
So it's
amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's not super good. But Pete Milligan is an interesting writer, I think, and Mike Allred is an amazing artist. He's on the very short list of artists who I'll read a book just because he drew it. I read a lot of Madman just because his art is so cool.
It's I was kind of skimming the Wikipedia article to see what, if anything, popped out that I would have read before, and I just noticed that he followed up Animal Man. Like after Grant Morrison wrapped his stuff up, he was like, "Yeah, let me do 6 issues on that." And like, how? I know somebody has to be the next person, but imagine being like, "Okay, so you just, and now I gotta." Okay, sure. Let's do it. I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never read those, but I'd be curious to see what he does because he's also got some weirdness, but just a really different kind of weirdness. If people who are listening, if you're unfamiliar with Mike Allred's art, he does Madman, as I mentioned, and kind of it's the whole Allred. It's Mike and Laura Allred, because the thing that signifies these are big, thick comic booky lines and big, largely flat colors. Bright colors without a lot of shading or gradient in them. So everything has this kind of pop art, emblematic, kind of look to it.
Yes. Very, very you it's one of the styles that you look at and you're like, oh, I know immediately who this is. There is no question who's drawing this. And I really like it a lot. And all of the composition of the scenes are very funny. There's some stuff that happens. There's one thing that I'm thinking of particularly where Edie gives somebody the fuck you arm in the background, and it's just so everything is just all the action is very clear. It's just really fun to read.
Yeah, he's wonderful, and there's really cool stuff coming up with that too. There are some really, really great action scenes of this. There are also some other artists that come in because Mike Allred works slow. So similar to New X-Men, we're going to have some some less good art as we go on. And this series is also, what'll be interesting about this run of the podcast is I know a lot of weird behind the scenes stuff about this. This had a really troubled production, and I followed it when it was coming out. Like, I collected this in issues. So I remember reading Wizard magazine and reading blogs online, learning about, their kind of changes and stuff. There's a couple big changes that happened with them from editorial that impacted the comic. And it's going to be fun to talk about that stuff.
I was, as I'm listening to you, I was also like looking for Michael Allred stuff. He just tweeted last week, like yesterday. Well, this is fucking convenient. Like day before yesterday, someone tweeted and was like, I miss X-Statix. And he said, they are in front of me every day. I have a huge head start on a new excellent series coming in 2021.
So they released issue 1 of that. Last year, I went to a physical comic store and bought it, and it's awesome. It's like they didn't miss a beat.
Nice.
It literally just felt like it's X-Statix again. There's also a mini series he did, X-Statix presents Dead Girl, which is Dead Girl, who's a later character who teams up with Doctor Strange, and it's about like how Marvel keeps bringing dead characters back. They make like a league of dead Marvel characters to go solve stuff. That's real fun.
Okay.
So there are some other X-Statix things that are in the pipeline, and I'm looking forward to it coming back. New book is good. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the comic book at hand.
Yeah. Got our big, beautiful cover here introducing our new team. One of the things that, they like to do on this is be very retro. So there's a little thing on the front where it says, "Hey kids, look, no code," referencing, comics of the 60s and 70s when they would get rid of the comic code.
Yes.
And that means there can be violence. And we are introduced to our cast. I think it makes more sense to talk about them as they show up in the book.
I do too.
For reasons that will become clear.
Yeah, but this is a pretty basic, if extremely well wrought. Like, here's your team. Like, they're all like, in front of an explosion. But like, the funny part of this is not a lot of these people last in this comic book. Like,
no. That's the spoiler.
I love so much of this because it's just like they invent all of these interesting characters and they just have no compunction about murdering them whatsoever. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the what this was kind of famous for. Like, not only does this bring a new team from X-Force, it immediately gets rid of them. We start off with our team leader here, Zeitgeist, as you may remember from Deadpool 2. And he is having a flashback. He's remembering the day his mutant powers manifested when he was about to go have some underage sex under a boardwalk and accidentally puked acid all over the face of his lover.
Second worst first time, you think?
After mine or after
mine?
Whose? Oh, okay. So third worst.
I'm just kidding. I don't really remember much of it. I just remember I had a broken leg. So like that's.
Oh. You mean afterwards?
No, during.
Oh, okay. All I remember is I broke my leg. It's fucking wild.
The rest of the night is a blur.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is kind of reading this. It's all very like the characters are all very nice and sweet and kissing, and like then just the shock of him just projectile vomiting all over her, and then takes us into like this kind of weird setup where Zeitgeist is like watching himself and the X-Force team, like in a war zone, like killing a bunch of people, and it's kind of freaky.
Yeah. Well, a couple models are naked in the background. He's making notes on the team. Should I deploy La Nuit earlier? How his battering ram Plasm's kill rate is only 4%. That's not good enough. He needs to be on defensive duty. As he's watching them kind of do these crimes, and we're getting our introduction to the team this way. He's noting Eddie, who is passing out after she teleports. Dupe, we're introduced to Dupe, who is a whole thing. He's like a green floating blob, who films all of their things.
Yes.
They show him like shooting a broken piece of glass. He's remind Dupe, this is not an art movie, which I really like.
You said Eddie. Is and I said Edie earlier, just to get that clear. Like, which one are we going? Is it Eddie actually?
Oh boy, I've always said Eddie.
Okay,
you're probably right, but I can't guarantee that I won't slip back.
No. I need you to change everything about yourself right now, and then going forward, and then not make a single mistake about it.
I'm now very small.
Oh no. Tiny Gary, get in my pocket.
The tiniest podcaster. Podcaster.
Let's go for a ride.
Yes, the Pocket Podcaster. Let's go for a ride.
We just invented a new microphone.
Listening to a podcast. Have you've listened to a podcast in a car? But have you driven in a car while a tiny man tells you about his podcast?
Are you tired of your podcast being stuck at home?
Imagine if you could put it in your pocket. In this review tape, he also sees the death of a character here, Sluck, who looks great. He looks like a creepy Muppet in a leather suit. I love Sluck.
Sluck is good. Sluck is also a good name. Like, it's just a good bad name. That's another great thing about a lot of the characters that they invent, is that their names don't really mean anything. Like, sometimes
a lot of times now.
Sometimes they'll associate it with the power a little bit, but like sometimes it's just like Sluck. Like he's not slucking around or anything.
That's where he does his slucking. They're branding. You know, this is a marketing kind of exercise. And then the final member of the team here, Gin Genie, Becca, who says a reminder to check her alcohol mix because her tremors nearly killed us. Yeah. So we're kind of introduced a little bit to these people and their powers, you know, and we're going to get a little bit more of that later. But we cut back to him reviewing where the models are trying to seduce him, like, hey, stop watching yourself kill people.
Stop watching the murder porn and let's make some real porn.
We'd like to have sex. And one of the prostitutes is like, you know, we've been watching and we think this gets you in the mood. And he admits it, you know, it doesn't hurt. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And we cut to the next morning. We're back at the North Africa insurgent zone, or whatever, as our team is standing in their destruction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool outfits. I like this like dark blue kind of motif that they have going with the X's on the chest. All good stuff. And then we go to a press conference, and this is where I guess I might have to ask this several times, or is all of this new? Basically, like with the X-Force leading up to this didn't have this coach character. We weren't filming X-Force missions or anything like that. So this is all new. Like, okay. I'll point out when there's stuff from the main, Marvel Comics universe, MCU, comes in. This is all new. Thanks for breaking that one down for me.
I'll point out when 616 stuff happens.
I don't want to spoil you for anything in Lovecraft Country, but there was a character that goes to a place, and at some point they refer to the place as Earth 504, and like extremely exciting, but also with his like intrinsically black as Lovecraft Country has been over the last like 8 or 9 episodes. 504 is the area code for New Orleans, and New Orleans Twitter fucking exploded because it's this like powerful black character that they showed doing a wide variety of things, and then Earth 504 pops up, and everyone was like, "Bae!" Like everyone is losing their mind over it. So yeah,
hell yeah. This press conference is Coach introducing the newest member of X-Force to replace Sluck.
Yes. Coach only has one arm, and he has these weird red and black eyes, so he's got to be a mutant of some kind. But and a lot of this is new for me, and I'm not really super scared of spoilers or anything, but like they haven't explained any of that at all. So
yeah, they say that they used to call him the Arm, but he lost his special arm a long time ago.
Bummer.
They don't actually explain what that is. This is just, flavor, for this. But we're introduced to one of the main characters of, the series, kind of the trio of main characters that we'll go on to focus on, Tyke Alakar.
AKA Anarchist.
Yes. The Anarchist who has, sweat powers. And he keeps it vague. Like, I can do things with my sweat. It's like acid, create energy from nothing. Which doesn't make a lot of sense. But it doesn't really need to.
Doesn't need to at all. And don't care.
Doesn't, yeah. And he's obviously kind of modeled after, like, at the time, I feel like kind of like Dennis Rodman with the hair streaks. You know?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Is that green? I'm colorblind. Does he have green streaks in his hair?
It's orange.
Orange. Mm-hmm. Well, there we go.
The reporters are asking Axel, or excuse me, Zeitgeist, how do you feel about this new guy? And like the narration in his head is he's not a team player, he's a dangerous guy, he's mentally unstable. But of course he's like, no, we're super good, we're super glad he's here. He's going to be a valuable member of the team. And just the inherent fakeness of all of this is really intriguing to me. Just as a brand new reader, I'm like really into this.
Well, and that's like one of the big themes, about this. Like this is a comic that deals with celebrity and image. We cut over to the Beverly Hills Four Seasons, and while being interviewed in a hot tub full of beautiful women, the anarchist has just blown the roof off of it, literally.
Yes.
The air conditioning's not working. The reporter said it was hot, and he used his sweat to explode the ceiling. And there's this great little exchange that I like here, where he's fanning the flames, really. Like he's talking about, Zeitgeist thinks I'm stupid. I'm not stupid. It's Zeit fucking Geist. That's Temesis. When you split up a word by putting another word in the middle of it. I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
Mr. Zeit Temesis Geist makes me feel like, a curse word where it doesn't belong.
And he says, he's kind of laying the blame of some of this on Zeitgeist and saying like, like he didn't really like Sluck, and look what happened to Sluck. And he's just saying, and he has this great, and these two fucking panels slay me, Gary, where he's like, I'm a black mutant in this country. That's like being a black with a little black added. And both him and the reporter who is black, like both just like have this moment of got him.
It's real good. There's like fascinating race shit that happens with Tyke Alucard that I need to hunt down some, like a person of color writing about it.
Yeah.
Like I gotta figure out what Austin Walker thinks of this, because I think it's really interesting, but also Peter Milligan is a British man and hopefully it's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
The other thing this is setting up, helicopters show up and try to arrest him. And he's like, you can't arrest me. I'm in X-Force. Like I do whatever I want. The idea of X-Force is that basically these are celebrities who get away with literally anything.
Yeah.
Kind of doubling down on this commercialism thing, we go over to the X-Force Cafe, which I love. There's some cameos here. Wolverine is here. There's a guy who looks like Cyclops hanging out on the right. But they've erected this tribute to Sluck, where you can put a $20 donation to all of his favorite charities and get his, release a pleasantly mild electronic pulse from his face things.
And like the tour guide, like, now that's what I call refreshing. Like all of that kind of stuff is very hilarious to me. Wolverine is really into this dupe doll, huh? But also kind of looking like a weird Flasher at the same time.
He's got the trench coat on. Mm-hmm. There's actually a Wolverine. We should figure out if we're going to cover it. There is a Wolverine and Dupe 2-part miniseries that happened during this time. They've got a history.
Interesting.
And we're going to find out about that next recording session.
If we need to, kill time on a recording part, then probably that I would be interested in that if it's well written. So,
yeah, it's fun. It's like slight. We cut to backstage here, where we're seeing kind of the team dysfunction behind the scenes.
Yes. Becca is basically super drunk, and they're trying to get her to calm down, and it's not working very well. She's on some sort of weird medication. This vampire dude is trying to help out, and then of course Edie is just making fun of all of them involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just basically, Zeitgeist wants to bench her. That's what you want. You'll destroy my fan base. And Edie says, your fan base, saying you're a fan of Gin Genie is like posting your AA membership on the internet. So there's this infighting here as they go through, until Plasm comes over and it's like, I have this technique I've been working on. I can make your body release endomorphs. And then wraps her up in his weird, like he's a weird liquid man. He's made of slime, and he very sexually like kind of wraps her up, and she looks like she's moaning with pleasure.
Yes.
Here.
I've never done it, but I know some people that have gotten like IV fluids after like really hard nights of drinking. Like there were companies that would come around and do that for you for a while. But it's supposed to like basically kill off a hangover. And that's what I'm imagining this is like. It's just like, you don't have to wait through that 3 or 4 hours of shittiness. Like you just get all of your fluids refreshed and you're good to go.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, did you say there were guys who'd walk around and do that?
There was a company
like a truck that'd pull up or something?
Yeah, there was a company that did it. I'm trying to remember what the context was. But I definitely know people who like, yeah, my girlfriend's a nurse and she can just do this because it's not like illegal. Nothing about it is illegal. Like we're not using any kind of scheduled drugs or anything. It's just, you
can
just,
put water into people.
Yeah, just hydration. And, all of a sudden it just kills a hangover like that. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary's like, I'm going to start drinking again.
As you get older, your hangovers get real bad.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I don't drink. And but when I do have a hangover, the only thing I can do is drink a bunch of water and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like I literally just have to wait through it. Every time I've had to just kind of power through and be awake and do shit, I vomit a lot. It's not good. So that makes sense that it's just replacing your fluids, like just time and water, which kind of flushes me out.
Yeah.
So
I will guarantee you that there's some CBD themed hydration IV company in Portland, Oregon that you could call and get there in a moment. Well, maybe not in COVID times, but guarantee that exists.
I should Pocket Podcaster hydration CBD service. Edie notices on a news broadcast that they're covering Tyke Alakar blowing up the roof here, and we cut over to Edie and Zeitgeist having dinner. Zeitgeist wants to get rid of him, get rid of the anarchist.
Yes.
And he's kind of chiding her for using her teleportation powers outside of missions. He's being a little bit of a Cyclops.
Yes, absolutely.
During this,
this is supposed to be super serious, and she's like, "What are you talking about? This is definitely not about that whatsoever. This is all about sex and fame and money and power, and this is the life that we're in. What are you trying to pretend to be?" Yeah,
you're not a hero. For somebody who calls himself Zeitgeist, you really don't have the spirit of the century in you. He says, what if we get called on a mission? And she's like, well, I've been popping these capsules that my doctor gives me, just a little something to whip me up.
Perfect.
And she's like, I'll take another one. She kind of makes her first ploy for leadership at this point, says maybe you should think about stepping aside and allow me to be leader. What's interesting in the background, there's at first it's it's a waiter giving somebody something with a spoon, but I thought it was a guy proposing for all the world. I was like, oh, they're trying to set up this parallel.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it looks like the thing with a spoon and it looked like a ring box that was open to me.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. But they get called on a mission.
Yes.
At the end of the scene.
We go to their headquarters, which is this gaudy fucking building that is just horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate it so much.
I'm sure this is real. It says Loyola on the front. So if you know Hollywood, I bet you this is a real building. And they're squabbling. Again, it's incredibly dysfunctional. Zeitgeist is yelling at Anarchist. Anarchist is upset. He's like, this is what we do. This stuff is expected of me. And he's like, you've been here for 5 minutes. You don't get to tell us how to behave. And Alakar dodges, I'm getting paranoid. You got this chip on your shoulder. The coach brings in the mission.
Yep.
It says hey, this is not going to be a tough mission. Our focus groups say that people have a hard time, relating to you. They can't empathize with you. So we're going to do a softball,
And the softball is the boys are us, a clever pun. And these are some very much fucking, Backstreet Boys looking motherfuckers that have been kidnapped by somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to find out people with no agenda. This is a hint, actually. People with no agenda, bad guys they don't usually see. They've already killed the shy one who writes all the songs with the dreads.
Love it.
As they throw Joey Fatone out the window. And the record company, the twist is they say hey, the record company is allowing it. They're playing hardball with these terrorists. The band's popularity is waning. Having them killed will boost sales.
Yeah. So a hard line, cynical look at, what celebrity is, what companies will do to promote celebrity and all that kind of stuff. Taking that to its, fantastical conclusion. And it's the kind of shit I'm here for, Gary. I love this.
Mm-hmm. We get the first appearance of Dupe speak, Dupe's language. Dupe is recording it, and Yugo Girl, which is Edie's superhero name, says, "Can you not shoot me from a low angle? my butt because you're making me look like Jennifer Lopez. And he speaks back in this kind of nonsense language that is translated. In the one of the comics that came out, they had a key. So you can go online and figure out everything he's saying. It's not particularly interesting.
100% not worth it. Yeah, I was about to say. It's like playing Wind Waker, but you can understand the weird thing that talks to you every once in a while. Like,
exactly.
I don't need it. Yeah,
just leave it.
Go get the Triforce, save the girl. I got this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So they get there. They teleport over to MTV, which is Sonic TV in this, and they're doing like Spider-Man-esque rapport. Shake things up a little, shaken and stirred, as they're like just killing these terrorists.
Yeah. And also being worried about, like, are my blotches showing at the same time, right? Like, to make sure this is this is their promotion. Like, this is the videos that people would see of them doing stuff, so they want to make sure they look good while they do it.
Yeah. Edie is showing her combat efficiency. She teleports people out into free space. The anarchist rescues Zeitgeist, stops him. It feels like it's coming together.
Yeah, this is like super great superhero stuff, Gary. Like we're in a good moment right now.
Yeah, and Zeitgeist has this internal monologue. He's like, cafes, limousines, immortality, luck. These are the peanuts they throw at us. They'd hate us if we couldn't do this. They would fear us. They adore us now. They know why we're here. But what is the point of us? I'm a mutant, you idiots. I'm still 14 years old. I burnt that girl's face off. I'm a freak, and I hate you all. And he looks out the window to see an attack helicopter pull up right in front of him as Battering Ram puts his hand on his shoulder and says, "Boss, I feel I oughta," and then everyone gets fucking shredded with bullets.
And like grossly shredded with bullets. Zeitgeist kind of passes out, of course, as he was thinking about vomiting on that 14-year-old girl's face. Like as he's coming back from unconsciousness, he kind of sees that, but it's really Edie there, and his entire intestine are hanging out. His leg is detached from his body. Like Edie's like, how are the others? Like, are there any others? And Anarchist is like, they're all dead. Like, and we see this splash page, and it's just literally everybody in the room has been torn the fuck apart, like in a violent and gruesome way.
Yep. And that is the end of the issue. That's our big wham moment,
including the Boys R Us. By the way, we didn't. That.
So if you're a big Boys R Us fan, no more first appearance and last appearance of Boys R Us in the MCU. Mm-hmm. Right here. But yeah, this team that we just got to know that all had, they weren't fully developed. And we're kind of left with characters that will remain main characters for a while. This is them winnowing down the cast and to introduce more people. A high turnover rate is part of the X-Statix X-Force thing. Eventually we get to a core cast of about 5 or 6 that stick around with guest stars. But for a little while, there's going to be this churn. And I think what they're doing is they're just really trying to emphasize that, like, this is a disposable life. Like, part of the reason why you do this is because it's dangerous. You can die at any time, but you're doing it because you want to live the high life.
Yes.
And the idea of this as an alternative for mutants, who are feared and hated and persecuted is really interesting. We talked about at the end of the new X-Men run about things that open the door for, and this is one of them, right? Like Grant Morrison opening the door to there being mutant culture opens the door for the idea of like a reality show. Basically like a group of mutants that operate as such.
Who doesn't want to see the Kardashians, but the Kardashians all have superpowers.
Yeah. Keeping up with the Tykala Kardashians,
of course. Yes.
Yeah.
I guess to assuage your fears a little bit that you mentioned at the top, I am like fully invested in this 100%. Like now, actually starting from the actual beginning instead of like the middle point, I guess. Does a really good job of introducing you to the story, and like I was having that thing that I had with New X-Men where I didn't want to stop reading them today. Luckily, I had video games to distract me because otherwise I would probably just kept reading them. So,
Duckfeed.tv, your source for video games and comics.
Yes, that's true.
That is good to hear. Because, there are issues of this comic that I like less than others, or story arcs that I like less than others. But it is, this is going to be a love fest, at least for me, listeners. And this is a contentious comic. I remember the last issue of this came out when I was on tour, and we stopped at a comic store. It was the drummer in my band. It was his childhood comic store, and I asked whether they had the issues, and he said he was all sold out. And a guy who was standing next to me at the checkout said, "You can have mine. Like it's in my pull box. This is sanctimonious shit." Or it's not sanctimonious. I can't remember. He said, "Oh, self-indulgent crap." With the last issue. So there are people for whom this does not work. It's just those people are not Gary Butterfield.
Yeah, to me, it absolutely 100% works. Like, this is so much fun and it's interesting to read. When you start with X-Statix, they actually have a letters column, and they get all sorts of hate mail in that letters column. I don't even know why they published it. Like, it's really, like, it's just like people being really mad that, you know, it's comic book fans. Like, it's just the stereotypical fucking comic book guy stuff, and it's just really sad.
Yeah, it's a huge bummer. But it's we're here to present a counterpoint. If you like this show, head on over to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
Yes, that's the place to donate directly to the podcast and the network as a whole. You get all sorts of cool benefits for doing so. You can also leave ratings and reviews on iTunes and Stitcher and various other services. If you want to get in touch with us, the best place to do is probably on Twitter at DOFC Podcast. And Gary, I didn't mention it. Good job on the intro. We have a new intro for this season that's inspired by X-Statix. So nice work on that as well.
Thank you. It's different than other ones that I've done because I just moved and I did not have access to all my instruments. So my challenge was to try to do it with stuff I had around.
Yes.
So,
which is why it sounds like he's playing Pocket at one point. I'm just kidding.
Yep, exactly. It's a little bit more ukulele forward than usual. But hopefully people
remaster
like
the Abject Suffering theme song and see if you can get Pocket to just hit that perfect meow for you and just like spend all day trying to record it.
There's a little TikTok that went around that was somebody playing
the piano.
Yeah, and the cat hits the high C.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Very, very funny. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. I hope that you guys are reading along with us or experiencing X-Statix along with us, because I think it's going to be a heck of a ride. We're super looking forward to it. So we'll see you in just a few days.